Speaking of OpenClaw, I read something in Y Combinator today. These guys were talking about something called self-evolving SaaS, and they said this is going to be the biggest trend in AI in 2026. And by self-evolving SaaS, what they mean is a software that is automatically adapting and evolving based on users' feedback by analyzing their experience.
Okay.
And I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around what that would actually look like. Is that another OpenClaw, or like what does that even mean, self-evolving SaaS? So I wanted to get your opinion on that.
In a sense, I guess. I mean, I haven't used the word self-evolving SaaS, but from what you're describing, it's pretty similar to like, I can see that trend for sure. Because even myself, like when I'm working on the career butler stuff, I didn't do this, which I feel kind of bad for until like recently, but now I have it look at my post-hog analytics and just see what the users are doing, right? It runs a analysis of like, let's look at how our website is performing, is what's the response time, all this stuff. And then it also looks at things like, how are people moving from page to page? If they log in, do they go to the resume tab and upload a resume? If they've done the upload, do they go make an application? You can kind of track how they move about a page once they're signed in, right? And this kind of data has always been available for like since Facebook came into power, 2010, like with the social media era. This kind of analytics has been hugely important for social media. That's why you hear about like, oh, Meta is tracking me, Google knows everything I'm talking about. It's this kind of stuff, right? And now it's gotten to a point where I think this is like a natural self-evolving thing where you have so much data available, but I'm not going to sit there and look at it. And even if I do, it's going to take me all day to even figure out what's happening. So the perfect use case is throw something like Claude at it or OpenClaw in the agent form and have it just churn through that data and tell you, hey, it looks like people are leaving your site when they go to this page. Then now you can be like, okay, what's wrong with this page? That's the way I've kind of begun to use it, right? But then another way, what you're saying of like this Y Combinator stuff, it evolving across 2026, how I could see that is user features that you mentioned. Basically, if enough people in your feedback or your website, like whatever portal you have, or any kind of like, even with actions, if it looks like they want a feature bad enough, let's say like 50 users contact your support saying, I really don't like this, I wish I could do this, right? Then if there's enough people talking about it, maybe there is enough demand. And then your bot just tells you, hey, I'm seeing that there's a pattern of people asking for this specific feature. Should I make you something so you can review it? Perfect, go ahead, do it. All it took me was like 3 words and it went ahead and did that. So I can kind of imagine that. I can see why that would be a really big trend, because if these guys are smart enough and they're agentic enough to like go access the website, go look at the things, analyze the pattern data by like putting up data, pulling data, and like writing code to analyze it, looking at different things like where they come from, and taking your ads and seeing if that correlates, all these kinds of stuff. If you can connect them to all these systems, then I don't see why it couldn't make really good business decisions. But you'd still have to review them. That's what I would think, at least, is that you should definitely be the one steering it.
Okay, because when I thought about self-evolving SaaS, just to give an example, we've been having, well, I think you already fixed it, but we've been having trouble with our website in terms of the slow in parsing ability, and I think you fixed that today. But what a self-evolving SaaS would do is recognize that the parsing is taking too long of a time and people are already leaving, and it's automatically going to make that parsing faster without you even having to say anything. That's what I was thinking when I meant self-evolving SaaS, and not it giving you data, be like, hey, people are leaving because your parsing system is taking way too long. Do you want me to fix it? No, don't even ask me that. Just fix it.
I think, well, it depends, right? I think it's a little bit about personal preferences as well as how capable these things are. Because, yeah, I see your argument why like you would want to do that. But one,
sorry, go ahead.
One, I don't think it's like able to yet. I don't think AI has good taste yet. It's really good at analysis. It's really good at pattern matching. It's really good at like looking at things and telling me what I need to do. Or if I give it a task, it's really good at going and doing it exactly how I want it to, right? But it's not very good at like, okay, like I think, well, actually, the example you gave is kind of exactly what should happen. In fact, the resume time delay and people leaving, I found out only after I gave Claude our product hunt logs, and post hog logs, and I was like, go through this, and then it recognized it, so I looked into it, right? So already that was happening. I was just one step before what you were talking about, which is it automatically does it. But for me, those kinds of fixes are fine. It should do that, I think, automatically. But imagine this. Imagine the user, instead of like putting in their job manually, they want a job link to just paste, and then they want it to be automatically done. They don't want to copy paste, right? If that's something that maybe came back from feedback, or you noticed it somehow with your website patterns, let's say your Clawbot or whatever AI agent recognizes it, do you think, or would you be okay with allowing it to just like add whatever, like however it should do the URL? Or would you want a little bit of control on saying like, okay, maybe I should give URL with optionally letting them paste stuff, or maybe I want to take out the paste stuff entirely and give them just a URL? Um, those kinds of like decisions. I think for me, at least right now, I want to make them because maybe I can see something about like, okay, I also noticed this other thing. Maybe I want to simplify the UI. So I want to be able to control that a little bit. But I can see maybe in like a year, 2 year time span where, I could set it up in a way where it kind of knows what I want and overall what the website looks like, then it can just kind of do it without permission. So I think it's a level of comfort of how much control you want to give.
That is very true, because I was thinking in terms of employee. Let's say a QA analyst finds a bug, it's automatically going to communicate with the software developer, and software developer is going to fix it. But I completely forgot there's a manager in position who's going to, validate
Right.
that idea like
Because
QA.
it's a coordination thing too, right? Like
Mhm.
just like the manager, that manager has a director, and that director's job is to make sure the managers are aligned, and that manager's job is to make sure the QA people are aligned, whose job is to make sure that the developers are fixing the right thing, right? So everyone kind of manages up the hierarchy. So there's a little bit of chain of command needed. And I think like for little things, it's okay. Maybe it's a personal site, maybe it's like a very small product. Maybe you want to make it auto change. But imagine you're the size of Google. If
Mhm.
you have 50,000 different little softwares and internal tools, and they all started just changing on their own, you would just lose sight of everything. One thing wouldn't know why it's due, or like it would just work in isolation without knowing this like other 10,000 tools, how they could be also thought about together. And the only reason that happens even with human people is because there's these string of people, managers, directors, VPs, that kind of have their own responsibility of being like, okay, you manage it from a higher level than other people, but you manage 3 high level things together, who manage other lower level things, who manage like that.
But could you not create AI agents and replicate the brains of product manager, QA analyst, software
Sure.
developer, and let them handle that?
I mean, like in the future, yeah. I don't think they're good enough right now. Like they're getting there slowly, but I don't personally believe that they're good enough to like handle such a complex system right now.
But even in the future, would people be comfortable just giving full control to AI like that?
Now we're having an existential question. I don't even know like what, like if we all, why not? Okay, imagine this future. I'll tell you 2 futures. One future where all the, like in both these futures, all of the AI do our work. We don't have any jobs. To what you're basically saying, right? Like I could
Mhm.
replicate a whole company, then why do I need people in there at all? If that's the case, and it's happening all over the world, there's 2 futures that I imagine. One where kind of, I don't know, wealth distribution has been figured out, and even though these robots work and make our society functioning and better and slowly progressing, right?
Mhm.
They don't, like, what does Claude need money? It doesn't. So instead, let's say we have some kind of earth-wide or country-based program where everyone gets basic income, universal basic income.
Mhm.
Nobody has to go to work because AIs do everything now and robots do everything now. But whatever they produce and value, that gets distributed down to us. Where, like, let's say I get like a $10,000 check every month. If
Mhm.
that's the future, take my job, bro. Go do it. I don't want to be in that office.
Mhm.
But then there's a second future, which is honestly more likely here, is that ev- everyone gets fired, but then whoever owns that AI bot gets all of the money, and the people that got fired get none of the money. Like the Googles and the OpenAIs and the Anthropics keep the money that they make, right? Because right
Mhm.
now that's how it's looking. If OpenAI can go grab all of Amazon's, or let's say Tesla with its robot and XAI can go grab all of Amazon's warehouses, it can do everything in there, from
Mhm.
like operations manager to driving the truck to picking up the boxes, right?
Mhm.
OpenAI would keep all that money, even though like hundreds of thousands of people would be fired. In that kind of future society, I would be really worried to lose my job. So it kind of depends on where it's going to go.
Okay. I was thinking. Okay, that actually makes much more sense. I was thinking that it's like AI is going to be smarter than human at one point, and it's going to be in our lifetime. So if that's the case, you don't need humans making decision. You can just make an AI agent that is much more smarter than product managers, the CEOs, and they just talk to each other and they just operate. Now, if they do decide to hit the sidetrack and do some evil shit, I don't know how you would prevent that. But my main thing is you don't need employees in the future anymore.
I might be
That's
wrong on this, but well, I don't know. Like I was going to go on a different point, I think. Um, to what you just said about like you're basically saying something like, "Why have a president? I want an AI president." Like if it gets smarter than humans,
extreme example, but yeah.
right? Like something like that. Because I mean, if we're going to talk today, then none of that can happen. But you're saying like if it could happen. then we have to talk extreme. Like it's better than like the world leaders and politicians at like making decisions.
And actually, let me stop you right there. There's actually AI mayor in some European country.
Yeah, sure, but it's those are gimmicks. I don't believe in those. That's just like public sense for me. And wait, you really think AI mayor is like controlling it?
You're right, but I thought they were like testing it out to see what kind of decision it makes and what kind of opinion it has.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that it's like entirely false. I haven't heard about this, but yeah, it would really shock me if I was finding out that somewhere in Switzerland, like all the decisions was being made by an AI, like today. Maybe in like 3 years, it's a thing. There's two things. One, I fundamentally think AI looks like an S curve.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to draw on a piece of plastic. But I think in terms of progress, I think AI looks like this. Okay. Where like this was like 2010 or no, like 1990s. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we approached like 2010-ish here. Pretty flat, a little bit of progress. If you zoomed way in here, you'd see progress. 2020 happened, we started seeing this like rise. And everyone was like, holy crap. I think we're maybe like here now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine this axis as like how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to get to a point where it's going to start flattening off. And what I mean by that is the current models. All of the models right now share the same exact thing called transformers or the attention mechanism. That's like the main algorithmic innovation that powers literally this like multi-trillion-dollar market. The way we think about like training that with that algorithm and another thing called backpropagation, the way we think about our like basic algorithms, the fundamental things that make ML as we know it right now, it's looking like it's not very good at like capturing all the possibilities. That's why you see AI is kind of bad at creativity. It's really good at other things, but thinking outside the box, having like original, super unique thoughts that don't make any sense, right? Like that is hard. It can definitely do that. I can tell ChatGPT to speak gibberish and it will.
Mm-hmm.
But what they're finding out, there's like many research. If I tell ChatGPT to tell me gibberish 10,000 times, those 10,000 times start looking kind of the same. There's no variety there. You see what I mean? And that's a fundamental data / like algorithm problem that exists throughout, no matter what it is, because it's foundationally a problem.
Maybe there is no any other combination besides the thing it
There
generates.
is. That's what I'm. Yeah, and you could argue that in a certain way, but there is, because how we compute this is if you told a human, and maybe like a lot of people wouldn't pass this test, but if you told a really smart human or a really creative human, like a poet or like a story writer, to come up with 10,000 random gibberish things, his would look, or his, hers, whoever's would look really, really diverse. They could really compare to the language models. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that kind of stuff makes me believe that we're going to hit this unless we come up with another like algorithm breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
The extent, like the amount of juice we can squeeze out of this current algorithm foundations is going to plateau at some point, because it has some fundamental limits of like how it works and how like data transfers.
But how can you say that today though? How are you so sure it's going to hit? Give one, sir. Plato.
I mean, pure prediction. The same way, how can you tell me that it's going to be smarter than a human? You know what I mean? Like we're both predicting here. I'm just saying that looking at some of the flaws or some of the kinds of things that AI seems to be constantly bad at, and they're like simple things, while it's really, really good at, like, I don't write my code. Deep research, it does much better Googling than I do now, right? Those kinds of like go do the thing tasks, it's really good at. But if I'm like, oh, let's sit here and think of 10 different website designs, creative kind of work, or let's sit here and write poems with me all day, creative work, it's kind of bad at it. And why?
The thing is, it's so hard for me to believe that. I mean, which is true right now. I mean, we do a lot of creative work, and the output is kind of shit.
Right.
But if it has access to literally billions of poems ever written in human history, how can it not generate a new one that is like out of the box?
You know what? I have a kind of an analogy. Maybe imagine like not to like try to call people dumb. Imagine literally like two humans. One super, super low IQ, like, straight up from the forest, like hasn't seen a day in the world, hasn't studied any logic, nothing, right? And imagine another one who's just like been basked in like classical knowledge of like whether you want to pursue arts or this or that. They're just like multifaceted. They've done everything. They've like experienced a lot. This guy lived in a cave like his whole life and then just came out. Okay. Those two people, their abilities are different. You can both give them 1 billion poems, and one of them is going to be much better at it than the other. right? Like, yeah, there's a chance that this guy who lived in a cave might like slowly learn because it's a human at least. But like in this scenario, one would obviously be a lot better at it than the other would. And even better way to put it, sorry, I know this is dragging. Forget the human example. A bird with a billion poems and a human with a billion poems are just different because those brains are different. The things that are wired and the amount of things that they can kind of, how they, process information is just different enough that like one is clearly better than the other. And no matter how many million, billion years you spend with a bird, that is just not going to work for whatever you're trying to do here. That's what I mean by this, is that like there are some signs, at least to me, that suggests that if this is the only algorithm we have and we don't evolve from a bird algorithm towards a smarter human one, that it's just going to hit some kind of like a plateau.
Okay. Hold on. Does this part make sense to you?
Yes. I mean, like, explain it to me, but I can infer what you're trying to say.
Exactly like what you said, but I doubt it's going to hit like that steady a flat kind of pace. Some dots is going to connect to some dots, and that dot is going to emerge a new idea, and that
Correct.
dot is going to somewhere else.
Correct.
So it's like I don't think there's a limit or cap in terms of where what AI can do in the future.
There isn't. If I'm going to be honest, I was just presenting because everyone hypes this up so much. I wanted to present the bear case, right? I wanted to be like, let's come back to the ground a little bit. I wanted to share what I'm seeing there. But if I'm going to be very honest, what I'm also seeing is people working really, really, really hard to make sure that we don't hit that. Billions and billions and billions of dollars poured in to make sure that anytime we hit a limitation, the smartest minds are like sitting there trying to figure out how do we make that not the case. So I agree with that diagram you just made. Some point someone's going to say something or like know something, and it's just going to start a curve again on top of that curve, right? So if you told me to put my entire money on it, I would bet on your chart. But I was just presenting like, let's not get too hyped up. Like there might be it's not going to be up forever type. Like we're not going to create God in 2 seconds.
Okay, makes sense.